It's clear that the Season 2 meta is leaning more towards damage output than anything else, and that was made very obvious with the most recent update buffing all of the strategist damage values. So we want to see if these strategists can actually compete with the DPS heroes in this game by comparing all their TTK numbers to see if we can actually play strategist heroes as DPS. Starting off with Cloak and Dagger, who actually got a pretty decent buff, and as you can see, the primary damage for Cloak and Dagger deals exactly the same amount of TTK as the Scarlet Witch, whether you're killing a squishy character or a high HP target like Groot. It does not make a difference. You're going to get exactly the same time to kill. Now, of course, Scarlet Witch has other attacks that are going to help you reduce this time to kill, but she's one of the most OP DPS in the entire game at the moment and one of the best anti-dives, and that essentially just makes Cloak and Dagger exactly the same when it comes to countering dive and dealing a good amount of damage, as you can see right now with the comparison. Adam Warlock got the biggest buff when it comes to his healing output. Landing critical hits now reduces the cooldown for his avatar livestream, which is absolutely insane. I wanted to compare him against Hela, who has a very similar damage output but also a very similar attack, as they're both hit scan, and that is just a good comparison to make here. Now, obviously his damage output falls short of what Hela can output because she's absolutely insane, but as you can see, it's really not by an awful lot. And considering Adam Warlock is a healer in this game, you can see that critical hits is definitely what he excels at. It reduces your time to kill by almost a half, whether you're killing high HP targets or low HP targets, and you're not far off what Hela can achieve if you are landing your critical hits. Now, if you're not landing critical hits, then yes, your time to kill is slightly longer, but that is expected when you can keep yourself alive a lot longer as well by healing yourself up. Next up, we've got the easiest comparison to make, and that is two fully automatic weapons, one from Rocket and one from Punisher. Now, Punisher's fully automatic gun is hit scan, so that's the only slight difference here, and Rocket's bullets does lag slightly behind. But what I do want to mention is that their TTKs are pretty much identical, so it's exactly the same whether you're landing critical hits or just base damage. It does not matter, and it also doesn't matter if you're killing higher HP targets. That means Rocket outputs some of the most insane amounts of damage when it comes to a strategist in this game, and we're definitely leaning towards more damage heavy heroes. As you can see, their TTKs are basically identical. Now, like I mentioned, Punisher has hit scan, so he's going to have more versatility at range, but also he does have a shotgun as well, which does deal a little bit more damage, but that is part of his kit. But when it comes to the base attack, it's pretty insane how good Rocket is. Next, I want to compare Iron Man with Jeff, and the reason for that is because Jeff and Iron Man both deal spell field damage, which is essentially splash damage, and they also deal direct impact damage as well, which does slightly more damage than just landing splash damage alone. Like I said, we compared this with Groot and also Luna Snow, so we've got how it impacts squishy characters along with the high HP targets. And what you'll find actually is in certain scenarios, Jeff actually comes out on top with a faster TTK, which I'm not too sure what this is down to. Maybe it's his reload, or I'm not really too sure. So when it comes to primary damage and you're landing only splash damage, then both of them have the same amount of TTK. Then when it comes to direct impacts, Iron Man comes out on top on squishy targets. When it comes to the higher HP targets on splash damage, Jeff's slightly better. And then when it comes to direct impacts again on the higher targets, then Iron Man comes out on top once more. Next, we're comparing Luna Snow and Moon Knight, and that is because they both have like a burst ranged attack. Now, it is slightly different because Luna's is hit scan and Moon Knight's not hit scan, and obviously we're not taking into consideration Moon Knight's combo or his unks for that matter. But sometimes you're not always going to have his combo available or his unks available, and surprisingly, sometimes you might actually want to take Luna Snow for this reason. As you can see here, when it comes to the actual TTK numbers, when it comes to the primary damage on 250 HP targets, it's basically the same. And then when it comes to critical hits, it's the same again. And then when it comes to the higher HP targets, Luna Snow's only 1 second off. But keep in mind, she is hit scan, so at range, this is going to be more consistent than Moon Knight. And then when it comes to critical hits, again, they're basically identical. So 90% of the time, you might actually want to use Luna Snow, because if you don't have unks and if you don't have his combo available, then you're not really going to be getting as many kills with Moon Knight as you probably could with Luna Snow. Next up, we've got the strategists that don't really have a DPS that we can actually do a comparison with. and that is Loki. So as you can see here, we're testing him with 1, 2, and 3 clones or doppelgangers, whatever you want to call them. And as you can see, the testing on this does take a little bit of time, because when he doesn't have any clones, he's not really dealing a ton of damage. Now, whilst we've got a bit of time to discuss, I do want to quickly mention the reason why we wanted to include every single strategist in this video is because we did make an older video comparing all the TTKs of all the strategists, and I just wanted to make sure they haven't made any sneaky nerfs or buffs whilst not in the patch notes. And just to be clear, they haven't done that, so everything that they have mentioned they changed was only the stuff that was changed in the patch notes, of course, and that was just to reconfirm, because obviously, like I said, we made that older video as well. And if you wanted to see that video, you can, because we break down all the different combos that you can do with these strategists. You can actually squeeze out a little bit more DPS from heroes like Adam Warlock if you use his secondary primary combo. So like I said, check that video out if you want at the end of this one. And like I said here, as you can see, it's taking a bit of time to kill Groot with Loki, because he's not exactly the highest damage output strategist in the game. So as you can see, we've got the TTK numbers on the screen at the moment, and that is with 1 clone, which is essentially just Loki by himself, then 2 clones, and then 3 clones in total to triple your damage output. And as you can see, when you have 2 to 3 clones, you can actually kill quicker than Scarlet Witch, which I find pretty insane. Now, you're not outputting nearly as much damage as the other DPS on this list, unless you're dealing primary damage that's not direct impact with Iron Man. Then you kind of beat him slightly. But like I said, for the most part, you're not really beating out any other DPS, even if you do have 2 to 3 clones available. So it just depends on the DPS you're using, but Loki isn't really used to deal loads of damage anyway. Next up, we've got the best damage dealing DPS, strategist in the game at the moment, and that is Mantis. Now, Mantis definitely fits that hybrid role of being a DPS support hybrid, because she just outputs a ton of damage. Now, what we tested here was her primary attack, which changed with the most recent update. They actually gave her a damage buff. And then we also wanted to do the testing on her damage buff that she gives herself, and then also critical hits as well, because the patch notes never really mentioned the fact that the critical hits or the damage buff would get a buff as well, just because of her base damage getting increased. So that's something we wanted to test with this and make sure we're, again, doing this all for completeness and just making sure we've compared it for squishy targets and high HP targets, because like I said, it's really important. And Mantis just outputs some crazy amounts of damage in my opinion, especially for the fact that she can heal to some extent, and also she can damage buff her team as well, which I find pretty crazy. So what you can see on screen just now when it comes to Mantis is her TTK numbers, and this is for her base primary attack, then her primary attack with a critical hits, then her anger with her primary attack, then her anger with critical hits, and then we did all the testing again on Groot, obviously at 850 HP. Now, comparing this to our older video and with this extra damage, what this means is that 55 damage, so that extra 5 damage she got in this most recent update, essentially carries out through all of her attacks, and that means that is knocked off a second on basically all the 850 HP TTK numbers that you see right now, which is pretty insane in my opinion. So I'm not too sure exactly what it's done with the 250 HP damage. It might not have changed that too much, because we only did testing on Groot on our older video. But when it comes to the high HP targets, it's knocked off a second on each of these damage values, which I find absolutely insane. Mantis, if you compare to Hela right now, you can see that her anger with her critical hits is quicker TTKs than what Hela can output with her primary attack, which I find ridiculously good. Now, it's not quite as easy to land a critical hit with Mantis compared it to Hela, for example, but the fact that you can output more damage than a DPS with this character, I find absolutely insane. Lastly, we've definitely saved the worst when it comes to damage till last, and that is the Invisible Woman. When it comes to the Invisible Woman, she does not deal as much damage as the other heroes in the game now, especially the strategists with all the buffs that they have received. I think they're absolutely insane at outputting damage and supporting their team, whereas the Invisible Woman kind of lags behind all the rest. And what you'll see right now is, like I said, the comparison of TTKs. When it comes to the 250 HP targets, it's actually not too bad, to be honest, But when it comes to the 850 HP targets, that is when it starts getting to 12 seconds for a TTK. And I think this is far too long when it comes to TTKs in this game. Anything over 10 seconds is very slow. So I do want to just point that out, even on an 850 target HP character like Groot, when he's got walls and other things to protect him as well. So there we have it. That is a deeper dive on all the TTK values for the strategists and comparing them to some of the DPS heroes in the game and some of the more stronger ones. If you enjoy videos like this and you like to see stats breakdowns for Marvel Rivals, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as we'll be making way more content like this. And thank you very much for watching.